Welcome to the Global Discussion, a discussion with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. My name's Simon Hodgkins. Today, I'm joined by the Connections Queen, the person herself, Tracey Currell. Tracey, you're very welcome to the show. It's great to have the Connections Queen here with us today. Let's begin by asking you to introduce yourself to our worldwide audience. Tell us a bit about your journey. Tell us all about your adventures and a little bit of context before we get our conversation going today here on the Global Discussion. Tracey, you're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Simon, for having me on today. Yeah, so as Simon said, I'm the connections queen, and I call myself that because I do really, really connect to people at a deeper level. And I just want to really share with you, when I first started networking in 2007, I used to sell advertising space for a business magazine. And at the time, my boss said to me, I want you to go out networking. And I said, networking, what's all that about? And he said, well, you go to these events, you swap your business cards, and you do business. Never been taught how to network before. So I thought, right, off I went to my first event. I'll never forget it. It was at the Copthorne Hotel in Cardiff. And I was going up to people and I'd say, hi, I'm Tracey. I sell advertising space for Pear Media. Is that something that you'd be interested in? And people would be like, oh my God, who's this woman? Who's this full-on sales girl, you know? So surprise, surprise, for the first 3 months, I didn't get any business. But I think when you're in business or when you're in a role in a position in your job, if something's not working, you've got to find out why isn't it working? What can you do to change it and to get it right? And I think it's always good to get constructive criticism. I always say constructive feedback, but it is good constructive criticism because, as I say, if something isn't working, it's always good to ask people. So I asked a few people what I was doing wrong because I said I wasn't getting any business, and I said, can you be honest with me? And they said, yeah, go for it. And basically they said, you're giving it the hard sell and networking isn't about that. And I said, yeah, but I need to get my targets. And when you're in advertising sales or any sales role, really, you're only as good as last month's sale, you know? So, they said, well, maybe networking isn't the right thing for you because it's more of a long-term strategy. So I said, well, I've not really been taught how to do it. What's the score? What have I got to do? Because I need to get my sales in, So again, I was trying to, be pushy about it. And they said, well, what you've got to do is just get to know people, go into a conversation, start asking lots of questions, show an interest in other people. So I did that, Simon. And after month 3 of getting zero business, I went on to sell £95,000 worth of business in 9 months. And that was obviously, in a year's period. And I was like, wow, this is really powerful stuff, because what I started to do was did what they said, was just get to know people. But what was happening when I was asking them lots of open-ended questions about them, I was quite a natural network, natural connector. And I'd say, oh, I need to introduce you to this person because they'd be really good for you. So it was I was connecting the dots in my mind, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, actually, at the time, I could do this, because I could see how powerful it was. I thought I'd love to set up my own network, because at the time there's lots of networks out there, and there's the usual, certain networks that you have to go to and show up every week and bring visitors, etc. But there was no networks out there that would strategically place people with their target audience. So I came up with my USP and created Introbiz, with one of my clients, actually, because I'd gone to him with this concept. I hadn't been in business before. And I said, listen, I'm thinking of setting up this network where we can connect people together with their target audience on tables. So like, to give you an example, if there was a wedding photographer there and a wedding planner and a florist, I'd put them all on the same table. So there would be good synergies for them. And it was working quite well, when I started to do that. So, John at the time came into business with me and said, well, let's do this business together. He was a businessman. He had all the experience. He had a marketing team. And there was a great guy there, Wayne Boyland, his name was, and he actually came up with the name Introbiz. I always like to, share other people's good things, because it wasn't me that actually came up with the name. It was Wayne. And when he came up with the name, when we were having a brainstorm, I went, that's the one. And that's the name, and I loved it. Introbiz. I thought, amazing. I just love that. So Wayne, if you're listening or you get to hear this recording, thank you so much, because obviously 15 years later, we're still here. And, it's been an amazing journey. It's been a tough journey. Just like everything else, business is tough. It's not easy. And obviously during COVID, I nearly lost the whole business because I'd done nothing online. everything was in person up until COVID. And then obviously, as everybody else, we had to pivot and take it all online. And now we do actually more events online. We do 8 events a month online and 3 in-person events a month, compared, as I say, to the online. So we have pivoted and transformed, which has been amazing. So we're still in build-up mode, but I felt that it was my duty as a business owner and a connector to keep everybody connected. So that's what we did. We, obviously we plowed through, and obviously we're still here to tell the tale.
So a true business pivot was required by many during the pandemic, Tracy, and you've explained really nicely there how the pandemic kind of shuttered, didn't it? It was immediate sort of closing of the barrier, and the doors all came closed, and all the barriers and the shutters came down because you couldn't meet in person, right? It was all of a sudden that was the way it was. But you've mentioned there, did you say 8 online meetings a month and things? So, I mean, you rapidly moved your business online. And I'm assuming now, as we sort of live in this post-pandemic time, I'm sure that, the in-person networking is back and growing. But you've kept the online element.
Absolutely, because obviously with the online, the beauty of the online, and a lot of, I speak to a lot of companies now, and a lot of people are working from home. They save money, save time by obviously not having to travel, to and from a meeting. Yes, of course. I mean, my favorite is in person. Absolutely. I've got my London event tomorrow, which is great. But, having the online, it still keeps people connected. It gives more global reach. You can save time and you can save money. So I think it's so important to be able to do that because, let's be honest, a lot of people say, oh, I don't like online. I'd rather meet in person. And I get it. I completely get it because I'm more of an in-person. However, there's only a screen like there is with us today here, in between us. Okay, we can't give each other a hug or, but there's still that connection. You can still look each other in the eye. You can still get to know each other. So I think it's imperative to have that online presence and have that more of a global reach because as a business, what we've done, we're all about collaboration. We've collaborated with a couple of other networks. We've got SBC network over in Dubai that we've connected to because I went on a business trip to Pakistan and Dubai in April. I've got another connection that my daughter, another collaboration that my daughter found was Inc. In Holland, the Inc. Network. So we've got a collaboration with them. And then our London event tomorrow is with Startup to Stand Up and Ollie Austin. So, we're all about collaborating with other people and other networks because, we're always trying to find ways to add value. We don't charge any extra for these events that we collaborate with, but it is a members only privilege. So members can only come to the online events. The one tomorrow in London is an in-person that is open to non-members, but we always like trying to find ways that we can, connect more people to our members. So it's important to be able to do that and collaborate with good companies that have the same ethos as us. Okay.
Yeah, no, and I like that a lot. And I think it also spreads your Introbiz business internationally. And I'm going to come on to a few international connections in a moment. But before I do, I just wanted to ask you about not only do you have this wonderful mix of in person now and this on booming online business, and of course the third party sort of companies and networks that you are connecting to that you've just described. But you have different types of meetings, whether they're summits or expos or networking events. And I know you use a lot of nice, really nice 4, 5 star type venues as well. Was that all part of the original thinking, or is that how it's just evolved? Because they're very different events sometimes, aren't they?
Yeah, it's evolved over time, to be honest, because initially it was just networking events. Then we morphed into doing business exhibitions because there was others, and we did a combined package so people can exhibit with us and join our network. Because let's be honest, if people want to raise their profile by exhibiting at an expo, well, they can raise their profile for a whole year with us by having a combined membership, which is an added value, cheaper, more cost-effective way of networking. So they get both. And then we started doing different types of events, sporting events, sporting business clubs. And now actually we're launching this month on the 19th of September, an Introbiz singles event because there's lots of singles out there. So that's another way that we're going down now as well. But we love what we do. We love people. And, if there's a gap in the market and I can see that there's a problem or there's an issue that we can help to solve that problem, we're always open to new opportunities.
And coming back to what I was saying a moment ago about international reach, you're interacting with global organizations also and extending that benefit to your members.
Yeah.
How does it work? How does somebody become a member of Introbiz? I think it's different if you're a startup or if you're a company that wants to exhibit, and you've kind of explained that. But what if I'm just somebody that wants to network in the city that you're in, or whatever country you're expanding into, Tracy?
Sure. Well, we always say that people can come and try the Introbiz experience, whether it be online or in person. They could, we always accept visitors to come in. I think it's so important for you to be able to try before you buy. So we have visitors that do attend, and if they like what they see, yes, of course, we're a private members club, and after their visit, they would have to join us if they wanted to access all of the events. And then we can either do it on annual subscription or a monthly subscription, or we can do it over 3 or 4 months. We're pretty flexible on the payments. Obviously, it's all automated anyway. So whatever, we try and allow everybody to come in. So we try and make it accessible for everybody, if that makes sense. Even startups now, we've just recently launched our startup package for £500 for the year, because I always believe that if, entry level is £1,000, a lot of startups can't afford £1,000. So we thought to ourselves, well, we need to make it accessible for them, because it's even more important for them to be connected to people. And it'll, if Introbiz can help them springboard their network at a more cost-effective way for them in year one, year two, obviously, then they go to the £1,000 or above. It's but at least we feel as though we're supporting them along their journey.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Tracy, it's great to hear what you're saying there, because not only you're sort of supporting business and networking, but you're also supporting those newer companies coming through who need maybe a little bit of help just climbing that initial few rungs on the ladder. So thanks for sharing the startup package there as well. And of course, they get access to everything that you're doing, which is great. Now, you're no stranger to international travel yourselves, and there's a little Richard Branson connection somewhere along the lines. Could you maybe share with our worldwide audience a little bit about that story too? Because I think it's great the way you can maybe expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was very, very grateful. And for many, many years, I've always wanted to go to NECA. I've always wanted to meet Sir Richard. He's an amazing entrepreneur that I look up to. And he inspires me a lot. And I always wanted to meet him. But I'm a massive believer of the law of attraction. So because I'm a believer, I started putting it out there verbally. And I would say to people, I don't know when, and I don't know how, but one day I'm going to go to Necker Island. I'm going to meet Sir Richard Branson, but I'm going to take clients for the experience too, because it's never always about me. It's what I can do, or what Introbiz can do, to what our strapline is: create and connect communities for global opportunities. So I'm always trying to find ways that I can open up opportunities for my clients. So, and I know there's people that want to go. So I was on stage at a conference in Dublin, and I was speaking for an hour, and it was all about networking and connection and how to build relationships with people. And again, I said the same thing. I don't know when and I don't know how, but one day I'm going to go to Necker, I'm going to meet Sir Richard, and I'm going to take clients for the experience. I came off the stage, and this gentleman came up to me, and he turned into a client and a friend, actually. Brian Chittick, his name is. He was from Belfast. Lovely, lovely chap. He came over to me and he said, "Oh, you were saying about going to Necker." He said, "One of my friends has recently come back," and this was in February 2020. Oh, sorry, February 2019. I apologize. And he said, "Do you want me to introduce you to her?" And I said, "Yeah, amazing." So he introduced me to Hannah. She's a digital nomad, lovely, lovely girl. And we had a chat over Skype at the time. This was before Zoom was popular. And she said, "Oh, I'd love to work with you in some way. I love your energy." And I said, "Likewise, it'd be great for us to connect." So she came over and spoke at one of my events, and she sold a little marketing package to some of my clients, which 2 weeks later, she came back to the UK because she was also from Dublin. So when she flew back over to deliver this marketing seminar, I said to her, "Don't pay for a hotel, because that will eat into your profits. Come and stay with me." And we got on so well. So she came and stayed with me, and she said, "Oh, I'd love it if you could come to Necker. I'm going back this year. Would you like to come?" So I said, well, yeah, I'd love to go. So she introduced me to the guys at Premier Live, and we had a great conversation with them. They did their due diligence on what we had delivered over the last few years, because they had to, look into what Introbiz has done. And in 2018, the previous year, we'd had Lord Sugar and Grant Cardone at our expo in Cardiff. So they could see that we were working with big names. We had that social proof. We'd had Google working with us, because they, Google came to the expos as well. So that we had that proof. So they invited us and said, well, come over, and obviously I had to pay to go. But because I took clients, I had it slightly cheaper, because obviously I took clients and they gave me a referral commission, if you like, for taking people, because it wasn't my event, obviously it was theirs. And I had the absolute privilege of going, and I still have that opportunity to go every year if I want to. But obviously it depends on whether clients will go, because it's quite a large investment.
Well, you've name dropped some big names there, Grant Cardone and Lord Sugar and Richard Branson. So you're obviously moving in the right circles. But what fascinates me, Tracy, is it initially all started due to networking, reaching out, supporting each other, and helping somebody out, right? I mean, it is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you come from a place of serving and caring, and I genuinely love my members and I love my clients and I love helping them. And I think if I was just in it for the money, I would have given it up a long time ago, because of the pandemic, and what had happened there. But I love what I do. It's not a job for me, it's my lifestyle. And I genuinely love people. I grew up in the pub trade. My father used to have his own pubs, so he used to have me in the bars behind the bar. Don't tell the police. Working behind the bar when I was 14, 15, and collecting glasses. And I became really sociable through that, if you like. My parents given me that opportunity, which made me very sociable, and fell in love with, meeting nice people.
No, it's wonderful. And, you know, to be able to, from that early experience of having to deal with the public, having to network, having to talk to various people from various backgrounds, into what is now a really successful Introbiz, community that continues to grow. I mean, congratulations. It's fantastic. And
Oh,
it's
thank you.
amazing from, I think you're in Cardiff, are you in the Cardiff area in Wales?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm
Yeah.
based. I live in a little village called Lantwick Major, which is a coastal village, because I have to live near the beach. I've got my three dogs, and I go to the beach quite regularly. Although, be it, I've been quite busy the last few weeks, and I've been taking them over the field instead of the beach. So, because it's a
Very
five
good.
minute drive down to the beach, so I've been saving myself some time because I've been too busy. But yeah, I
Very
love,
good.
live. On the weekends, I'm always at the beach.
That's great. That's great. And I want to ask you, Tracy, what do you love about what you do? Because over the years, you must have met so many people. You must have been able to make so many great connections. But how does that sort of transfer into what you love about what you do today?
I think, I just love connecting to new people. I love learning from other people, because I'm a lifelong learner, I'm always learning. I love self-development. I love asking lots of questions. I love hearing people's stories. I love seeing that the connections that I make, or the business makes, and I can see something coming together, a great project or a joint venture, or business is being done, or somebody's won a big contract because of Introbiz and us connecting them. We had a client that came to an event at Lexus quite a couple of years ago, and they were a global payments company, and they did an 8,000, sorry, not 8,000, £8 million contract, by coming to that event. So when you hear of things like that, and don't get me wrong, that's not all the time. You'll get clients that will get £600, £700 client from maybe somebody, at an event. So it's not always a big client like that, and I'm certainly not professing to say it is, but it's, I just love that. And it just melts my heart when I see people collaborating and joint venturing. And what happens in our community, they're all really nice people. And when they say, like attracts like, we are a really giving community and a supportive community. I always say, don't be a taker, be a giver. Give people your time and attention, give people your support, give them, perhaps an introduction, or something that they might need in their business. Try and help them and support them, because it's amazing what you'll get back. I'm a massive believer of good karma. So with that sort of ethos, we've attracted the tribe of people that have got the same ethos as us, that they're not just coming in to give it the hard sell. They're not coming in to just take. They're there. We try and create long-term win-win relationships with people, because we say if you can delve that bit deeper into good relationships, you won't go wrong at all, and you've got friends for life.
Yeah, I like that a lot, Tracy. Thank you for sharing that. And it brings me on to something that I must ask you, because with networking, there's a couple of things that sometimes spring to mind for people. Number one is, I don't know whether I want to go networking in inverted commas because people are just going to try and sell me something. And then there's the opposite side, which is I know I need to network, but I'm not very good at it. So if I go, I'll feel a little bit out of place and I won't really know what to do. And you sort of shared a little bit of that when you started networking and how you kind of got it wrong at the start. So how would you answer those two kind of questions? Because they must come up in your world from time to time.
Yeah, of course. And, we sell networking courses to teach people. I've got a pre-recorded course that can be done, that people can buy. But one thing I'll say is there's a lot of people out there who are maybe a little bit uncomfortable walking into the room, and maybe they're a bit introverted. So I always say to them is this: just think to yourself or look in the mirror and say, actually, I'm damn good at what I do. Okay. You've got a lot of skills, you've got a lot of knowledge that you can transfer to other people and share with other people. So just think of it as your duty to transfer that knowledge to help other people so that they become better in their business or their job or their work, or whatever it is that they're doing. So don't come from a place of either dreading it or, it's not the right thing for me. Just connect and start talking to people, because it's amazing what will come from potentially just talking to somebody and just going up to them, giving them a smile, ask them their name, and showing an interest in them. I've had the most amazing experiences and opportunities just by doing that. And I think if you give, go in from a place of giving and serving and helping and being supportive, you know, you will sieve out the ones who are just the takers, because you know who the takers are. They'll prejudge you. They won't want to listen to you because all they want to do is talk about themselves. They don't want to help you. They're not there to support you. All they want to do is sell. You'll see, most people are pretty decent people, and most people are not stupid. They'll see who the ones who are the takers, but don't surround yourself with those people. Is hang around with the people that you know that you can help, and they can potentially help you. So create reciprocal relationships with people. That's what I would suggest.
So whether you're coming at it from a I need to buy services or I need to sell services, it's about that sharing of, well, what do I need? How can I help you? It's not one thing or the other.
No,
Yeah.
we talk about win-win relationships all the time. So see how you can help each other, create those
Yes.
win-win, long-lasting relationships, and then you won't go wrong.
Yeah, and I suppose it comes back full circle, doesn't it, to what you were saying about earlier as well, that you've been able to almost have this culture that now helps build on itself, where everybody's coming at it from a particular perspective, where everybody's trying to help each other along, which is a great sort of ethos to have as a community. And having, I suppose, a private community, people buy into that. So it kind of reinforces itself to some degree, I would imagine, Tracy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great. So look, I'd like to ask guests a little bit about their planning process, and I'm particularly interested in how you think about the future, because you've got a lot going on. You've got a lot of events to organize. I'm sure you've got some people helping you behind the scenes, and I'm sure at times it's a little bit chaotic, as the best of business is. But when you think about the next 6 months or the next 12 months or the next 24 months, how do you plan at this stage of your business's development? What are you thinking about at the moment? What's on your horizon? And what are you hoping to achieve as you continue to go forward with what you're building?
Well, yes, you've got to put a strategy in place. I think strategy is everything. So, in fact, I've got a marketing strategy 4-hour session this coming Friday afternoon. So, it will all be in the planning, and you've got to get a spreadsheet with all what, roles and responsibilities, what things have you got to do? What is it you want to achieve? And then you can, we put the events in the calendar 3 to 6 months in advance. And we don't do more than that, to be honest. We only plan a year in advance with our business exhibition, but with our events, there's always fresh venues, restaurants, hotels that are wanting to join on a regular basis. And we do like to try and use our venue. Well, we do use our venues where we host our events. They have to become a member. because, we're helping them by bringing an audience, and they're going to help us by joining our community, and they also get their chance to network as well. So we keep it a little bit more fluid and don't do them that far in advance, because we're getting new people. And all of a sudden someone might say, oh, should we do this event together? It could be a collaboration. Well, then you've then got to go and change the diary then, and it's a real pain. So, you've got to plan things in the diary, the things that you've got to do to get to where you want to go. You obviously do a list of all the things that you need to do and all the planning, and then you populate your diary with things that you need to do at different stages. So that's how, but also things will just crop up. Like, I got invited out to Pakistan with the Founders Club International, and the founder, Tahar Mamon, he invited me back in March and said, listen, I've got an opportunity. Do you want to come to Pakistan next month? And I went, yeah. So literally within a few weeks, I was flying out to Pakistan, and then I dropped into Dubai for 4 days, because Introbiz is going to be launching into Dubai, and I've got people there that want to help. But I do things in chunks of, I'm ADHD, so I've got loads of ideas, and I've always got ideas floating around all the time, but there's only so much you can do. So I'll prioritize the things that I think that will, have the biggest impact financially and support for clients and added value. Because obviously, yes, we're in business to make money, but I also want to add value to the network. So I'll always try and, populate things for, in the diary for things that I know that's going to be good. But it could be that it's last minute and you've got to then schedule it in. But I think you've got to plan 3 to 6 months in advance. I think, unless it's the expo, of course, which I just said, which is a year in advance, because you've got to plan for that.
It's wonderful hearing you, because the passion comes through as you're talking. And I love how on many occasions already in our discussion, you've said, well, it's about, I've got to provide value, and I provide value. And the word value seems to crop up from time to time, because you're really thinking about how you benefit the community. And I think that's really nice to hear. So
Thank you.
we're not going to wrap up right now, because I do want to squeeze in a couple more questions, but I want to ask you, if you were meeting somebody and they were looking for a little bit of advice, or maybe it's sort of questions that you come up with maybe it's questions that you get asked time and time again. Is there anything along that line that you'd like to maybe share with our worldwide audience, or any sort of final thoughts or things maybe we haven't covered that you think would be of help?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. So one of the things, a lot of people assume that networking isn't good, or it's not maybe not the right event for them. But I always say this, you never know who you're going to bump into. So never ever judge a book by its cover. I always share the analogy. Remember Pretty Woman? And she's, Julia Roberts is dressed in a thigh-high boots and a little mini skirt, and she goes into the posh store, and all the girls look at her as though she can't afford it, and they prejudge her, and they look down at her as though she's a piece of dirt. And what happens? She gets the rich boyfriend with richer gear. And a couple of weeks later, or a couple of months go by, she goes into that store and says to them, big mistake, huge. And then she goes in the next door to their competitor shop and spends all the money there, because they made her feel insignificant and they made her feel uncomfortable. So I always say this is, what can you do today, right now, when you are talking to somebody or you connect with somebody at an event? How can you make them feel special? How can you make them feel that they belong to something or to someone? Because if you can make somebody feel special, you can make somebody feel that they've been heard, you've given them your time and attention, they will never forget that.
I love that. Thank you,
And
Tracey.
obviously follow up with people. That's another thing people don't do. They go to these events, they swap their business cards, they've taken time out of their working day, and guess what? The business cards are stuck in their drawer or their purse or their handbag or their pocket or their briefcase, whatever, and nothing happens. Well, guess what? If nothing happens, guess what? No, nothing's going to happen from going to that networking event. And then people will say, oh, that networking event didn't work. Well, no, because you didn't take action. You've got to take action. You've got to follow up with people within 24, 48 hours. That's what I always say.
That's a great hot tip. Thank you, Tracey. Yeah,
The
there's no
fortune is
point.
in the follow-up. I have a
Yeah.
tool.
Oh, I like that.
I have a tool, look, a branded tool. Introbiz, the fortune is in the follow-up.
I love that. That should be on a t-shirt immediately, Tracey. That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that.
No problems.
Look, couple of last quick questions, okay? Um, when it comes to challenges that businesses are having, or people are having networking, is there any sort of takeaways we can leave people with that you think would be a quick fix or something that they should look at? Like, for example, you were just describing the follow-up. I mean, that's brilliant, in terms of where the fortune lies. Is there
Yes.
any other sort of obvious things that people get wrong from your, what is it,
Yes.
15, 16 years now, that you could maybe leave us with? And finally, then, once we've done that, I'm going to ask you to share where people can connect with you, with your organization. So over to you, Tracy.
Yeah, sure. So I speak to a lot of companies, and a lot of them, especially, and I'll say this, accountants, solicitors, training schools, they all want to send their team, if you will, out networking. And what they'll do is they'll send Joe the one day, Jonathan the next day, Elizabeth the following week. And I call it the butterfly effect. Okay, they're flitting in to an event and they flit out. But what networking is long lasting, deep relationships, and you only get the most out of it if you see people regularly. And it's what I love acronyms. So I've got an acronym for networking, but I've also got an acronym for the tomato effect. And the tomato effect is top of mind attracts top opportunities. If you go somewhere regularly and you show up every week or every month to that club, that community, they're going to get to know you. But if companies are sending different people along, you're not going to start to build relationships because they're all going just flitting in and flitting out. And networking isn't about that. I'm not saying that they won't get any business, because 100% that, they have had business in the past. You can pick up business straight away from an event. You could be in the right place at the right time. But generally, networking is a long-term strategy. And I've had clients that have been with me for a year, okay? They've not had any business and they've wanted to leave. And I've said, just stick with it that little bit more. And I'm not just saying this for the money. I'm saying because you've done all the hard work, you've started to show up, you've built your relationships. But guess what? If you drop out, people are going to forget about you. If they forget about you, they're not going to buy off you. Whereas if you're constantly there in the mind's eye, people seeing people regularly, they're more likely to do business with you rather than your competitor, because you're showing up regularly for other people. So don't do that butterfly effect. It's important, whether you join Introbiz or another community that's right for you, join a community rather than and have a couple of dedicated people. So for those companies out there that want to send 6, 8, 10 people out, yeah, you can send them all out individually, but get them to go to a different club each and get them to show up regularly rather than do the butterfly effect.
I love the tomato acronym. That's very, very good. Top of mind, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, look, if people want to connect with you, or if people want to join your community and find out about all the great work that you're doing, where do we point people to today, Tracy?
Well, you can reach me on info@introbiz.co.uk, or I'm also on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram as Tracey Currell. And obviously, we have our Introbiz sites as well on Facebook, LinkedIn, literally just Introbiz, Introbiz.
Well, that's wonderful. And that brings us nicely to the end of this episode of the Global Discussion. I want to thank everybody who's watching or listening to this episode around the world. Make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, and do everything that I need you to do to help support the show. And make sure that you join me back here for some more discussions with creatives and leaders and thinkers just like Tracy. Tracy, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for coming along today.
Oh, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it, Simon. Thank you. Thanks for having me.